Hello, everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Daily, presented to you by FanArch. I am your host, Kirk MckNight, author of The Voices of Hockey, Broadcasters Reflect on the Fastest Game on Earth, and coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, LGRW from the PNW. It was a very busy weekend for the Red Wings, having played two games, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. It was a little bit of two stories, if you will. The first game being at home at Little Caesars Arena against a team that really you think they're clear down there in the bottom of the ladder as far as the Atlantic Division goes. So what business do the Sabres have winning in overtime against us, especially we have a 3-goal lead? So Saturday, with the Red Wings being up 4-1, the Sabres chipped away at it, got 3 goals, 3 unanswered goals, forced overtime, and then won it in overtime. So the Red Wings fans sitting there thinking, we had 2 points in the hand. We had it. And and those hopes were slightly dashed. 1 point isn't so tough. It could have been worse. The Sabres could have stayed hot and they could have pulled away 1-5-4 in regulation, and all of a sudden 2 points go to 0 points. But still, when you have a game in control like that, and you lose that game in overtime, it stings. And luckily, the sting wasn't able to sit there and fester for the Wings. Sometimes when you have a loss like that, it's best to just get right back out the very next day and put yourself back in it. Don't let it get into your mind too much. Don't let it sink too much down into your soul, I guess, if people want to go there. But the Wings were able to travel to Madison Square Garden and win 2-1 against a very solid defensive team in the New York Rangers, a team that had beaten the Red Wings 4-1 during the Centennial celebration the weekend before in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena. So a little bit of a throwback night. One of the big throwback moments was the fact that Appleton kind of pulling a youngster mistake and breaking an unwritten rule in the sport of hockey. If you don't know, if you didn't stick around and keep on the broadcast after the horn sounded, but Appleton, with Quick being pulled and the game being 2-1, the Red Wings had it. The time winding down. Obviously, the game's over because the Red Wings are driving down and they have control of the puck and the clock goes to 0. But Appleton threw one into the back of the net. Now Quick, who was the goalie, who did a great job, honestly, throughout the game, gave up the 2 goals, gave up a late goal to Raymond, which was in and of itself a beautiful little moment. Larkin and Fox kind of tangling up right there in the middle of the goal, and allows Raymond to kind of, instead of going on the right-hand side, be able to go around the back and hit it up and really create that moment, really create that room and space, all that going on. So, the goal happens, Red Wings win, but back to Appleton. Appleton throws one in the back of the net, and all of a sudden Quick, coming off the bench, is like, what the heck? And went right after Appleton, ran into Larkin on the way, and all of a sudden both benches are cleared now. It's a bench clearing brawl, and both teams are wearing dark jerseys. We're here celebrating this whole 100 years and everything like that. So the Rangers were in their tradition, and the Red Wings were also in a kind of like a festive and commemorative uniform in and of themselves. Usually you have the dark and the white uniforms, dark for home, white for road. But here we have a little tussle, and we got red, white, and blue all over the place. It looked like a bomb popsicle. And so you had a bit of a throwback back to the old days of the Madison Square Garden when these two were both, two of the only 6 teams in the league, both original 6 teams. So when you have a veteran like Quick, it's really easy to set somebody like that off when they see a young person doing something. Sometimes it's just a matter to like, hey, this is what you don't do in hockey. You don't show up your veterans. You don't show up a 3-time Stanley Cup champion goalie like Jonathan Quick by doing something like that. So, hopefully for Appleton that soaked in, they can understand a little bit, no hard feelings, just, when you step outside the lines a little bit and break some of those unwritten rules, those are the things that are going to happen. Now, the victory was a good opportunity for the Red Wings because they went up another couple of points, and they went up 2 rungs on the ladder in the Atlantic Division. They were coming into the game at 4th place after that overtime loss. And here is one of those times where you sit there and wonder, 1 point, 2 point, that really does make a difference, because the overtime loss on Saturday had the Red Wings 1 point back of Ottawa with the game in hand. Now, they could have been tied with Ottawa with that 2 points, but they were just 1 point back. being able to regroup and have a victory and get those 2 points right back, all of a sudden they jump Ottawa, and then they also jumped Montreal. Now Montreal now has the game in hand, and they're a point back at the Red Wings. So obviously, with the Red Wings having an off day, Montreal can easily jump back over them. But that is just a perfect example of how 1 point can really make the shift for you. When you're counting up all these points, 164 points possible throughout a year, and you're on game number 82, and you're in the overtime or you're in the shootout, and you're finding out that you're not making the playoffs. That's when you look back at a game like Buffalo on Saturday and you say, yes, 2 points really would have made that difference, and we wouldn't even be talking about playoffs or anything during this shootout right now because we're already in it. So you can never really underestimate the value of, especially when you're in the second, third, fourth, or fifth position in the division, you can never underestimate the value of that 1 point. So luckily the Red Wings were able to regroup with Sunday's win and gain that ground a little bit. And obviously the other teams have their game in hand. They can jump them, they can tie them, whatever, or they can stay where they are. So being at second place looks a lot better than when they were a few games ago when they were on their 3-game losing streak. So like I said, 2 points is 2 points, and we're very lucky to have those 2 points. Speaking of points, the game against the Rangers featured another point by Patrick Kane. Now, Showtime has 4 points in his last 3 games, so he is only 22 points behind Mike Modano for all-time points as from an American-born player in NHL history. He got an assist against the Rangers on Sunday. He got a goal against the Sabres on Saturday, and he had 2 assists in the game against Anaheim. So Kane, who had looked a little quiet those first 2 games back after his 9-game absence, didn't have any points against the Rangers or the Blackhawks last weekend during the Centennial celebration in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena. But like I said, 4 points in the last 3 games. He's starting to come into his form. The Kane DeBrincat tandem is starting to flourish again, like they have all the time. And you know, that American-born, they're already basically in the record books as far as an American-born tandem, goals and assists, and setting up each other. So now it's just a matter of, you know, how long it'll take before Kane, if he stays healthy, can pass Modano on the all-time points list. He's about 66 goals shy of passing him on the all-time list in that category. But, you know, if he plays a good 2 more seasons, or at least even finishes off this season, plays another season, he could very well catch him. Probably not as likely, though. Kane's kind of at a 20-goal in that 20-goal area average each year. It's not the 44 of his earlier careers and 30s that he would be getting in Chicago, but still, 495 goals is definitely nothing to sneeze at. So Showtime, if I were to stand up and turn around, you'd see the number 88 and the words and the letters Kane on my back. He's my favorite player, so I'm glad to see that he's coming too. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he can keep this pace up and keep on combining with DeBrincat or whoever it is. Honestly, points are points. I would hope for him to really eclipse Modano points-wise sometime in this season. Looks like that would likely happen. 22 points for Kane is a no-brainer. 22 goals, different story, but 22 points, you can get it anyway. So good luck to Kane, and hopefully we continue this pursuit and continue this hot streak here. Now is the point of the program that I call the no-cap recap. And considering that there were 2 games and 2 different moods in the locker room, we're going to start with the bad mood. And if you want to talk about bad moods, you need to go no further than Todd McClellan. When the coach has a game like they did on Saturday, where they're giving up 3 goals and 3 straight goals and losing in overtime, obviously you just don't know what to expect in the locker room. So McClellan, after Saturday's loss, and they're talking about this, they're talking about maintaining the lead, they're talking about having the game in control. Take you all the way back to Traverse City. A lot of you were there. On that day, we started talking about game management and learning how to play certain situations. Clearly, we haven't learned that yet. I don't know if you can write a script like that. we're shorthanded, and we're trying to score and creating turnovers. Until this group figures out what's important at certain times of the game, we're going to have those nights. Simple as that. I'm not sure that at times we value or crave the shutdown part. I think it's always about getting the next goal, and yes, it'd be nice to get the next goal, but preventing the next one is equally as important and sometimes even more timely. And I'm not sure that we figure that out. Throwing that into the AI translator for this generation's slang, this is what comes out the other end. And yes, I did mean to say this is what comes out the other end. Taking y'all back to Traverse City, a grip of you were there. Back then, we chopped it up about game management, trying to school y'all on clutch plays, but obvs, we ain't learned squat, bruh. I'm talking, you can't even script this kind of fail. We're hella short-handed, chasing points and coughing up the puck. Until this crew gets what's popping at crunch time, we're gonna choke mad hard. Simple as that, you feel? We ain't all that into locking it down straight up. It's always about bagging the next goal, and yeah, that's dope. But stopping the guys from scoring is just as vital and sometimes even more clutch, and we ain't clicked on that yet for shizzle. All right, well, let's talk about the good news. After Sunday's game, Talbot, who was in goal, great job. Talbot is always coming in clutch. He's been a great goaltender for us, especially in the shootout wins that they've had. Still perfect in the shootout. So going from the transition of a press conference after an awful night like Buffalo, how about after a great night in which the team showed up and won 2-1 on the road in a very tough environment? Here's Talbs after Sunday night's game. We talked about game management skills, tightening it up, being able to win the close games when it comes down to it, and there's no better example of that than the way we played tonight for a full 60 minutes. Give our guys a ton of credit for responding after what happened last night. Man, that was fun to play behind. They didn't let me do a whole lot in the third period. They had 3 shots in the final 20. The difference between last night and tonight, and the mental fortitude to come back and play a game like that after what had happened in the third period last night, give the guys a ton of credit. Here they came out and they established our game early. The power play got us a big one there, and Ray gets us a huge one at the end of the game. That doesn't happen if we don't check the way that we do. This is a tough building to do that in, and we played a heck of a hockey game tonight. All right, now let's throw that into the AI translator and see what comes out the other end. We chopped it up about clutch game sense, getting it tight, clutching up those close games when it's crunch time. Ain't no better flex than how we balled out tonight for a whole hour. Mad props to the squad for bouncing back after last night's L. Dude, it was lit playing D for them. They barely let me sweat in the third, only 3 shots in the last 20. Big difference between last night and tonight, plus the mental toughness to bounce back and throw down like that after last night's choke. Mad respect to the team. They came out guns blazing and set the tone early. Power play got us a big W there, and Ray sniped a huge one at the buzzer. That ain't happening if we ain't checking like we do. This rink's a tough scene, and we straight up killed it tonight. All right, folks, that has been your no cap recap, and it's been your weekend with the Red Wings. A win and an overtime loss, 3 points out of 4. Not a bad way to get yourself shot up into the next week. Got some home games against some teams that they should, on paper, really be able to win and get those 2 points per game. So let's just hope that's what happens, and let's just hope that we can either maintain that status there on the second rung or maybe even jump up and hit up Austin. We're only a point behind them. They do have a game in hand, I believe, on us, but like I said, this game can really switch and those standings can really, really flip on you. So let's hope they flip the right way and we jump into that first place spot and we keep there a real bit. Win the games that we're supposed to and not necessarily lose the games that we're not supposed to win, but still get those 2 points whenever you can and settle for the 1 when it's all you can do. But when there's more that you can do, definitely go for the 2. Buffalo was a perfect example. You definitely go for the 2, had to settle for the 1. All right, you get the 2 the next day in New York. It seems like all is forgiven. So let's hope that mood continues. And this has been Red Wings Daily, again, presented to you by FanArch and LGRW from the PNW.